pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Paul? Magna?
Here.
Mr. Loretto?
Here.
Mr. Dressel? Here. Ms. Vaughn?
All members of council are here and accounted for with the exception of Mrs. Hahn. Mr. Bell Madden.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mrs. Hahn from the meeting.
Second.
It's been rarely moved in second that Mrs. Hahn be excused from tonight's council meeting. Roll call.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villagna?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto? Mr. Dressel?
Aye.
So moved. Mrs. Hahn is excused from tonight's council meeting. The purpose of this meeting is to bring forth legislation that will be considered by City Council at a future date. With that, we'll start off with Mr. Paul. I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have two ordinances of sunshine. Out of finance, an ordinance establishing a minimum fund balance policy, and out of planning, an ordinance creating the Kegwood Drive Neighborhood Conservation District.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'll continue on to Mr. Paul.
Thank you, Your Honor. Missed my friend over there. Okay, under finance, an ordinance authorizing and directing approval of expenditures without a purchase order over $3,000 pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code Section 5705.41. And council as a whole, a resolution proclaiming the month of March 2016 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. We'll continue on to Mr. Bill Magna.
I have three under council as a whole. A resolution of commendation for Sharon Metke, a resolution of commendation for Stephen Scott, and a resolution of commendation for Kara Kakasik. And then under safety, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 2011-11, and also an ordinance repealing ordinance 2011-12. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Magna. We'll continue on to Mr. DiLoretto.
Yes. I don't think my microphone works. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Council as a whole, a resolution supporting the Jefferson County Water and Sewer Shared Services Feasibility Study Project in Jefferson County application to the Ohio Development Service Agency for funding of the Local Government Innovation Program. Also, I've been requested by this council to have a utility meeting on March the 22nd to talk about the water department and its billing and all its delinquencies. We will discuss and talk about restructure the billing and collection agency, the shut-off process, speed them up from 4 months to maybe 1 month, increase the deposits, look at the garnishing wages, the income tax, state taxes, look into the consent decree, which we've had for over 20 years, see if we can get that out of the way. Look for leachings. We're losing a lot of water. When people sign up, I like to have 2 people sign up, the landlord and the tenant, get their name, social security number, or any other identification so we can track them down. Have 2 names on the bill. When my parents came down here from out of town 70 years ago, my dad had a water bill, there was a name on it, John DeSardo, better known as Stogie. I said, Pap, why do you pay that bill first? That's the water bill, boy. If I don't pay it, he pays it. And that's what we gotta get back to. And we're gonna need the help from the community and from all the employees to make this water department sufficient. Where we don't have to raise any water rates again. I'm chairman. It's gonna be a long time. So we're gonna try to clean up our own house first. And we're gonna need everyone's help I want ideas, I want solutions, not criticisms. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villaretta. The clerk will facilitate the proper notices for the utility committee meeting scheduled for March 22nd, 2016, starting at 6:30.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, at 6 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Villaretta. We'll continue on to Mr. Dressel.
No legislation this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dressel. That will conclude the sunshining of legislation. We will now move into public forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state your name and address.
Paul Andreozzi, I'll use 614 Boston Avenue. I'd like to try to get some kind of lighting on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's completely dark. I have a couple rentals up there. Just had an incident tonight. Someone broke the window, but it's so dark up there. I think there's only one street light. Not only there, but it goes to Oregon, it goes to Oak Grove and everything else. I think we have better lighting, or we can get a grant. I already talked to Mike about it this evening. We get some kind of grant or whatever. I think it'd be brighter up there. I think would help the community also. One more thing to add about to Mr. Villaretta. On the water bills, I have 6 water bills in my name, and I make sure they're paid. But I'm being charged. I haven't paid on the 3rd of the month when I collect my rents and my water bills off my renters, okay, to make sure they're paid. But I'm being charged like $7, $8 per bill because it goes beyond the 31st. You know, I'm being penalized another, probably another $40, $50 a month on that. So, you know, when you have your meeting, I appreciate it if you look into that. You know?
Never meeting, Paul.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's all I have. But everything else is going great.
Well, everybody pay the bills.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I pay them every month.
Is that right?
But it's,
Yeah.
you know, I'm gonna get stuck with them anyway, so I might as well pay them. But,
Thank you, Paul.
Am I allowed to say it?
Scott?
Is that,
yeah, that's all.
yes, Mr.
Well, I just wanted to mention, you might want to stop at the water office and actually ask if they can change your cycle date. So you cycle one cycle later, because then your due date would be later. There's 4 cycles, so you might have one that'd be a little bit bigger, so you'd have a little bit more on there. You might be able to move the cycle date.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll check tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank Paul.
Yeah, that
Thank you.
cycle date is also when you read it. Thank you, Mr. Dressel. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Patrick McLaughlin, 407 Colonial Drive, Steubenville, Ohio. Of course, everybody could get the Herald Star a week ago. There was a Mr. LaRue here in Steubenville who contacted Jerry Gorelick before. They had some Christmas decorations, some Christmas trees that they wanted to give to the historic Fort Steuben, of course, which is located here in the beautiful town of Steubenville, Ohio. In the process of figuring out a way to try to get up to Keys Rocks, Pennsylvania to get this stuff, we was gonna, of course, rent U-Hauls to get this accomplished. Being a nonprofit, you're really strapped with funding. So what I tried to do is I wanted to try to contact some different local companies that had tractor trailers that could possibly help us out. And I called probably 5 or 6. The very next day, a company out of Brilliant, Ohio, Frailing and Schilling Trucking, called me back and gave me the greatest news I've ever heard. They said, we're going to help you with this. We're going to donate a driver and a truck and no charge to you at all, which helps this city tremendously. Although you're not a part of historic Fort Steuben across the street, but we're all together as residents of this town. And I just want to say, of course, I know the mayor, you was in contact with Jerry when we was up there, and I appreciate you having knowledge of everything and checking on us and making sure everything was going well. And I just want to say thanks to everybody who has visited the fort. And another person that I want to thank in this room, he doesn't get enough credit for the hard work that he does do. Of course, he's not going to write this in the newspaper because he's not going to write about himself, but Dave Gossett, if you don't know Dave Gossett, he's sitting right here, he works for the Herald Star, and he's actually nominated to the Associated Press. He's actually a finalist for an award. And I think it's great. stories. It has to do with the area, especially Steubenville. And as a resident, as a volunteer, as much as the good attitude, the positive attitude that you have toward this community, I want to thank you for that. And one last thing, I spoke to the mayor yesterday. I wanted to try to get involved with the meeting that you fellas had Saturday with Judge Massio about the community service workers. Mr. Mucci was kind enough to take me into the office of the judge, and we sat down and had a little conversation. And I also spoke with the owners of Vaporjet, Tim and Gina Pestian. And they're also on board with something that we want to try to do. We want to try to get with city council, with the mayor, with the city manager, with Judge Massio, and I'll take full responsibility if we can have these people out working in the community. I'll supervise them. I expect nothing in return. Vaporjet will totally provide garbage bags, the brooms, the shovels, and we need to focus on the city as a whole. And I think it's going to be important to get the town cleaned up. It's starting to get nice outside. I'm hoping this weekend to get started. Hopefully somebody from the court calls me tomorrow. What I would like to do tomorrow is start in the back parking lot over here and do 4th Street. I know, Mr. Di Loretto, I know you want to get something done in the south end, Beatty Park. Right, and then, if every councilman at one point in time comes up with an area in their ward, or as a city, which we all should be working together as a city, and then gets this city cleaned up. Not only asking just the community service workers, but also asking for volunteers to support the city as well. Thank you very much.
You don't have to give it to me now, but you know the guy's name. I'd like to know his name. I'd like to. You have the city
From the
secretary.
trucking company?
Yeah, you have it on.
It's Frailing and Schilling Trucking out of Berrien, Ohio. I didn't know, and I didn't want to, because I don't know how things operate. I'm not government supervised. I didn't know if the city wanted to send a thank you letter to Frailing and Schilling Trucking, thanking them. This was huge for us. I mean, they said, we filled this semi-truck up,
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Mr. Burrell is facilitating the thank you, and there's going to be something later on at one of the concerts. But anyhow, Patrick brings up an interesting point. First of all, these Christmas decorations were donated by Mr. LaRue. His family is from here. Wait until next year at the fountain for the holiday season. You're going to see a 40-foot tree there. Also, there are 6 8-foot wreaths that were transported along with a bunch of smaller trees. So we're already thinking about Christmas. I know Mr. Gossett did an article on it, but it was welcome news, and we do have a lot of thanks to the trucking company, let alone the vehicle and the gas. Also the driver for the semi-tractor trailer. I had to call Jerry, and they were still up there loading. There was 3 individuals that volunteered. Of course, Jerry Gorilla, he's there all the time for the city and for the port. One of his workers, and the 3rd person was Patrick. Took the day off from Vaporjet to go up there, help load and unload. Although he recognized me, I was a great supervisor that looked in the back of the tractor trailer and said, oh my God, a lot of Christmas items, and I had another meeting to get to.
And what made it nice was, when we got back, Mark Nelson,
Oh, that's right.
he provided extra help to unload the truck, M&M Hardware, so it was a great effort by a lot of people. I just want to thank everybody for all the help that day. It took a lot off of me when they called me back and said, we're going to help you with this. Because it was just a miracle that we was able to save money, and just, it was a blessing. And I just can't say thanks enough to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Team effort. As you also know, on several occasions, here recently, a couple of occasions, We thank Patrick for volunteering his time in the cleanup of the downtown and the volunteer work that he does for our community. But when he approached me, I believe it was yesterday, about the court offenders and what he read in the newspaper from our Saturday workshop, I immediately took him over to meet with Judge Massio. But without hesitation, he called in Mrs. Lemel, who's in charge of the court offenders, and they're going to coordinate a group. And Patrick has volunteered to supervise those court offenders periodically for the cleanup of downtown. That's great news. Thank you, Patrick. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is Garfield Hayden, 997 McKinney Avenue. I was noticing the issues, there's two issues, issue 1 and issue 2. And I know that there's so less money after recreation. I want to know why. Is recreation only a part-time job or is it a part-time thing in the city? Because when I was a kid, we had a small building up on Hill at CRC, and that building was never empty. It was open all year round. And there wasn't a big thing. We had a basketball court and 3 ping pong tables. Now we got recreation down here. I was out the ball field today with my grandson, and yesterday we just paid Jim White out there to put new drainage in that place out there. Right along first base, there's a rut. All kind of bird feces out there on the ground. And I went down by Jim Woods and got water puddles. We basically paid all that money for these fields, and they're not being maintained. I mean, some should be fields all year round, just not when it's season. And I just wanted to only ask for recreation only going to get $100,000. I see the fire department, police station, one get 2.4, one get $1 million for. What about recreation? We talk about offenders. Give them something to do. We was up there, the high chapel up there, when the first one up there, supposed to have a weight room, a gym, a sauna, a pool, everything. We messed around down here in city council so long. Now we got a building up here. When they had school, elementary leagues, we had a tournament for elementary leagues. I come down here, I talked to Dave Corsi, the recreation board. Yeah, they let you have that free. We had adult league up to CRC. Cecil Fletcher had adult flag football league. There was all kinds of things to do around the city. Now there's nothing. But all we ask for, all the recreation is going to get is $100,000. Why is that? All of these levies that you want us to pass.
Okay, if I could explain the levies. Both of them, issue 1 and issue 2, are renewal levies for the city of Steubenville. Issue 2 is our 7/10 renewal, where there is $100,000 designated from those funds that are generated that will go towards recreation. However, that's not the total amount of the recreation budget. Do you recall the recreation budget? I got to turn to our finance director. I don't recall the exact figure.
There's multiple sections. The 100,000, which we're talking about, is for capital only, so large
capital
purchases.
improvements in the parks.
But there is an operating section of the budget, and there are actually several parts. One is for the Martin Luther King Center. There's another section for the Bellevue Pool. There's a section for all the parks to maintain all those parks.
But they were talking, the Sunshine Section, talk about cut recreation. Cut funds to recreation.
That's not happening.
That's not happening. This council.
I said they just talked about it. That's one of the first things you said, we may have to cut funds to recreation. Okay, but that's what I'm saying. I recall and reading, I know I can look and read.
The former city manager did make the comment that he was thinking of, as some people refer to it, as mothballing some of the recreation activities, but this council stood firm and unanimously that that was not going to happen. I believe if we would total up all the funds in recreation, it's a little over about $500,000 altogether. With the pool operation, the indoor recreation, which is the MLK Center, the maintenance.
Right, there's an admin portion too. So, yeah, you're right. About a good $500,000 goes to operate these facilities.
Thank you.
That $100,000 is just what's designated out of what that particular tax generates, but not all what recreation is. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to city council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Ronald Crowell, 737 North Fifth Street, Steubenville, Ohio. Can you hear me? I love you. One comment I gotta make about your proposition there. Why do we keep going after the good landlords?
We're up to the bad ones.
I look around this room, I see a lot of good landlords. I have many, many, many water bills in my name, and they're paid every month. Why do the people that put, my renters that put the water in their name and use that water, do you want to come penalize me and these other good landlords? It's not fair. I've been down here before, and I'm down here again. I like some of your proposals. Well, 30 days, shut it off. Electric company, gas company, you don't pay the electric bill, you don't pay the gas bill, what happens? Boop, it's gone. No, you let it go 6, 7, 8, thousands of dollars. Then you come back to the landlord and say, okay, you pay. It's not fair. But I think we're doing a lot better job, council, and your honor.
Thank you.
I got one more question here, it's short and sweet. I keep reading in the paper, I missed the last few meetings because I was ill, not well. About this garden and fencing, I don't have the word for it, you're putting through on the thing. It's about fencing in the city of Steubenville and gardening in the city. I take it that's like a community garden. I didn't understand the promise of it all, the purpose.
Basically, what it boils down to, you can't have a vegetation garden in your front yard.
Well, what about the fencing? So if there's a-
Fence in your front yard?
You mean, okay, yeah, but you said about the garden, the fencing of it.
Yeah, the ordinance will clarify the rules on fencing. Some people, there's nothing in it right now. You can put chicken wire up as a fence in your front yard, and your property. You can put pallets up. It's being amended to clarify what you can and can't put up.
As far as the material.
As far as
and
the material
look,
that goes into the fencing.
the cosmetics of it, is that where we're at? In the gardening part, I thought that maybe was combined with maybe the community gardening they were trying to do on different blocks, which I think is a good idea. That has nothing to do with that.
This will apply to all residential areas.
Has anything ever been written up? All I see is the proposal of it, but I never see what it is. Has that ever been written up or brought out to anything? I mean, you're passing something here that you don't have
It's about
anything
this
written on.
big. We did have it out here.
We
Okay.
have copies that.
I missed that, then. I'm sorry I missed that. I missed that. Okay, great job,
The
guys.
clerk could provide you one if you'd like to get one off.
Yeah, I really would.
Never mind.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else
Thank
wishing
you.
to speak to city council on city business? Please come forward, state your name and address. Mr. Paul.
Yes, Your Honor, I make the motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
It's been regularly moved to second that we adjourn. Roll call.
Mr. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Delarado?
Aye.
Mr. Russell?
Done, Bill. Meeting adjourned.